What's going on YouTube? It's Orca with Fearless Orca Tactical. Today we're reviewing the Smith & Wesson SD9VE. Smith & Wesson SD9VE. Guys, this is what you get in the box. You're going to get 2 magazines. They're 16+1 stainless steel magazines. And your firearm, the SD9VE, chambered in 9mm. As you can see, it's not loaded. I think this gun right here, guys, it makes a really good first handgun for somebody out there looking to purchase their first firearm or handgun. This is a really good option. It's also a great option for a home defense gun for you guys out there, or possibly truck or vehicle gun. By truck gun, what I mean is something that's inexpensive, that if God forbid your vehicle were stolen or broken into tomorrow, you're not freaking out about, oh no, they got my gun. For me, a truck gun is going to be something that if it were lost tomorrow, I'm not going to shed a tear over it. I'm not going to put any sort of custom one-off gun or some sort of Kimber custom or a Nighthawk 1911 or an HK or something like that in my truck and leave it there as a truck gun. To me, truck gun's going to be inexpensive, something I can find readily off the shelf, and you know, if worst case scenario, it's stolen, not the end of the world. Let's get into some tech specs on the SD. Like I was saying before, your magazines are 16+1, that's 9mm, so you're going to have 17 rounds of 9mm in this gun. Unloaded, Smith & Wesson says this thing weighs 22.4 ounces, which for a full-size gun is pretty lightweight. You know, you're just over a pound and a quarter. It's not that heavy. Obviously it's going to get a little heavier once you load this thing up with 17 rounds of 9mm, but it's still very manageable as far as weight goes. Your barrel is going to be 4 inches on the full-size SD9, which is a good size standard full-size gun barrel. The overall length on this thing is going to be 7.2 inches from muzzle to the rear of the slide, and your width, which to me doesn't really make this a good concealed carry gun, is at its widest, it's just over an inch. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah, at its widest, this is just over an inch in width. You can still conceal carry this if you wear big enough clothing, or you know, have another way to carry it. It's not undoable, but it's just, to me, not the best option on the market for concealed carry. It comes with 3-dot sights, dovetail style, fixed. There is no adjustment in the rear sight here. One of the cons I have with these sights is they are made of plastic, not metal, which is, you know, I get it. Smith & Wesson had to make this affordable and cut costs creating this gun, and that was a location they could cut costs. But for me, I'd rather see them save somewhere else and still give you some more durable sights on this thing, because if you're to drop this, you could potentially crack or break those, and then this gun is pretty much useless. It comes with a Picatinny rail up here in the front, which is a great addition. Unlike the Sigma series that this was modeled after, There was no Picatinny rail on it. It did have the inlays in your frame, but you had to put an adapter on here if you wanted to attach any lights or lasers for this thing, which was kind of a pain in the butt because only certain companies made attachments, the adapters, excuse me, for the Sigma, and aesthetically it just really made the gun look cheesy. So I'm glad to see that they decided to put Picatinny rail on the SD model. It is a striker fired pistol, guys. Smith & Wesson says that it's got an 8.5 pound trigger. To me, that's a little light. There's some mush in the trigger, but without there being a safety on here, they kind of have that with the little dongle that they've got on the trigger. This dingus, some people like to call it. Little take up, but your trigger pull is not really that smooth. It's long and very resistive. The reset is also really far. I mean, it goes a long way to reset on this thing. That's probably one of my biggest complaints with the SD is that it's got a really crappy trigger. The front serrations on here, though, are one thing that I really do commend Smith & Wesson for putting on the SD. They're nice and deep, so you can get a good purchase. It really allows you to press check the firearm really well without slipping off the front or having to have really strong hands and just grabbing the slide. I wish you saw this on more of the Smith & Wesson models, but I really like the fact that they put them here on the SD. It's a nice addition. The barrel and slide are both made of stainless steel. Smith & Wesson says they have a satin finish on the barrel and slide for this model. There are other models that they have on the website. I believe they have flat dark earth and gray frames and blued slides available, potentially some other color options as well, but those are the ones I know I've seen in the past. The polymer that they used for the SD is not very good in my opinion. It's got stippling somewhat, I guess you could say, on here, but the rest of the polymer and even the stippling really for that matter is so smooth that if you had wet hands on this thing, I could see you just kind of slipping all over the place with the recoil. It just doesn't feel like very good polymer that they used. But again, you know, they're keeping this thing under $300. So there's going to be sacrifices you're going to have to make, guys. It's just, where are you willing to sacrifice, you know, cost over quality? The finger rest, I do like that they put the stippling up there. That is a nice addition to this gun. It does kind of help you out, especially with those new shooters, to remember, you know, yep, there's where I'm supposed to be putting my finger when I'm not actively shooting. I like the fact that they stippled it too. That's really nice, and indented it, but it doesn't make up for the rest of this frame. I mean, it's not good polymer, in my opinion. There are some aftermarket accessories out there for the SD, which is nice to see. Unlike the Sigma, did not really have too many aftermarket accessories. We got some holsters out there that are designated M&P that will fit the SDs. This one right here I use for my M&P 2.0, but you can get the SD to fit in there, and it holds real well. It is a little bit snug because the SD is a bit wider in the slide than my M&P 2.0 is, but this holster's got a retention set screw, so you could widen that out if you wanted to, and it would fit this gun just fine. They also do, if you do your research online, there are holsters specifically designated for the SD series. You just got to look around online. Aftermarket triggers, to me, that's a must on this gun, guys. Again, like I said, the trigger on this thing is atrocious. I know Apex makes a enhanced duty trigger that runs, I want to say, around $40 on their website, and they also have aftermarket trigger spring sets for around $20. if you get this gun, it's definitely worth the money to upgrade to that Apex trigger and those trigger group springs to try to get this thing manageable, because from the factory, this is just it's going to be hard to get tight groups with this trigger because it's just that heavy and that long of a pull to get it to go bang. Definitely makes a good home defense gun, truck gun, and you know, with minor adjustments, I think it still makes a really good concealed carry gun. You know, the Smith & Wesson SD9VE, great entry level gun here, made in the United States, and it has that Smith & Wesson warranty backing it. All right, guys, let's go over my final thoughts for the Smith & Wesson SD9VE. Price is definitely a pro for this one, guys. You can find this gun for under 300 bucks, and it makes a great entry gun if it's your first firearm, truck gun, or you know, just an at-home defense gun. If you're on a tight budget, this gun is worth every bit of that $300 or less if you can find it for less. Another pro is the capacity. With this gun being full size, you're getting 16+1 in the magazines that come with it, and that should be plenty enough for you if you ever have to use it in a defensive situation. Another pro I really like about this gun, it looks like Smith & Wesson really thought this thing out, and they put forward serrations on this, which they don't have on the Gen 1 M&Ps. And I really love about this because it allows you to press check from the front, which I really like to do, and know you're getting a good firm purchase up there in the front and you're not going to slip. As far as cons for this thing, guys, the trigger is pretty much crap on these. I think Smith & Wesson says it has like an 8.5 or 8 pound trigger, and you can feel every bit of that in this. Again, with the trigger too, I mean, it's got a long reset. The take up on there's a lot of mush in this trigger. It's just not good. And if you do get this, I would suggest spending some money and upgrading that trigger either through Apex or somebody else out there who has a trigger kit for these. Another con, guys, is the finish of the frame. I feel like the polymer used on this is really cheap and just does not fit good in my hand. You know, that's my opinion. Somebody else out there might really like it, but to me, it's just not good. The stipling's not really that good and doesn't give a good purchase. I do like the fact that they put stippling up here for your trigger finger, but that's not enough to sway it from a con for me. The biggest con I have with this gun, guys, is it's got plastic sights. So if you were to drop this thing, you could potentially break your sights, and now you're SOL. Again, I get it. It's under $300. They've got to cut costs somewhere. But I'd rather them not have forward serrations in the front and give you some steel sights so you know that those things are going to be there when you need them. Comment down below on your thoughts on the Smith & Wesson SD9VE. Like, subscribe, and share this video. And remember, defend the second so that we can protect the first.